How did you get into show business?
How did I get into show business? I originally, in 1975, decided to learn to juggle.
Learn to
juggle. It was a fad in the 70s. And at that time, I worked at a theater as an usher.
Sure.
So, plays and stuff. And one of the other ushers was a magician, and he juggled. And I said, oh, that's really cool. Show me how.
Right.
And so I learned how to do juggling.
Right.
And at that time, it was a fad in San Francisco. And one thing led to another. There was a group of people that did it at my college at lunchtime.
Right.
And then I met a fellow that we did shows at this festival called the Renaissance Festival.
Not this one here, though.
There are now a bunch of
they're all over the place.
Yeah.
You can make a whole live, just going from Renfest to Renfest. Yeah.
And we started at the original one in California.
Okay.
The #1 Renaissance Festival. And at that point, San Francisco had a neighborhood called Fisherman's Wharf that was transitioning from being a commercial fishing port to being a tourist environment.
Right.
So we started doing shows, and so I started doing shows on the street and in the festivals, at the Renaissance Festival, and one thing led to another, and it was a fun hobby in college to a funny hobby that made a little bit of money to it's like, wow, I can make a living at this.
Wow.
And I've never had a real job. I've only done the juggling, so the juggling and the comedy. So I've actually been making my living at this for 35, 36 years.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, so how... I mean, this is not something you look in a course catalog in any school or anything. Like, learn juggling. Yeah, I mean, I know there are universities, I know Barnum and Bailey, I guess they have their own university and stuff like that.
Yeah, it goes janitor, jet pilot. There's no juggling.
There's no juggling in between,
juggling
right.
on that list.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's quite something. I mean, and I, through a bunch, this whole sort of being at the right place at the right time, blah, 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 blah. So when I started, it was a fad. It was in the 70s.
Right.
The sort of hippie movement embraced alternative lifestyles. So when I started, when you did shows on the street, people would go, thumbs up, cool, you're sticking it to the man, you're making your life, you're living in an alternative way.
Right.
10 years later, during Ronald Reagan's time, is how come you're not what's the matter with you? How come you're not a real estate agent or a stockbroker?
Right.
And it was quite something. So I started with the juggling in street performing, then festivals.
Right.
And so all these things sort of happened at the same time. So street performing blossomed because of the Renaissance festivals, and a bunch of cities redid their industrial areas and waterfronts to have shopping centers with outdoor stages.
Sure.
State and county fairs started using the people that learned how to do outdoor shows with the street performing and the Renaissance fairs in state and county fairs. Colleges sort of organized actually hiring entertainment people like what I do for shows in the student union.
Right.
Comedy clubs started happening in the 70s and became very popular in the 80s and late 80s and 90s, mostly the 80s.
Right.
And so all these things happened. I was basically right there when stuff started happening, and I was able to take advantage of the basically it's like a surfer. I caught the wave.
So so we get our train that always come by here. That's your train. Don't miss the train! Quick! Don't miss the train! Quick! If you looking back on your life, is there things that you would do differently?
If I had done it differently, I would have copied Penn and Teller.
Right.
And the Flying Karamazov Brothers more, and started doing productions in theaters like this earlier. Right. So when I first started, there were the festivals, the college shows, and those guys were like, so instead of doing a show, it's like, I did a show at the Texas Renaissance Fair, and on the stage I was in, there was 900 people in the audience. Right. Those guys started renting theaters that literally were about the size of this lobby. Wow. The Penn and Teller started, their first run was in a theater in Philadelphia that sat maybe 50. Wow. And then they did a show in San Francisco, and they were, at that point, there was 3 of them, and they were called the Asparagus Valley Cultural Society. They ran for 3 years in a theater in San Francisco that sat maybe a little over 100 people. And so you're not making a lot of money, but you build on it.
Right.
You know, so it's sort of you play in a 150-seat theater,
Right.
you gotta go, then you play in a 200-seat theater, then you play in a 500-seat theater. Then now they're playing in Vegas, you know,
at the Rio.
Yeah, a 2,000-seat theater.
Right.
You know, that sort of stepping stone kind of thing I should have done a little earlier. But, you know, other than that, I mean, you know, with the festivals, the cruise ships, the, you know, corporate events, I've done all sorts of crazy stuff all over the world, and it's pretty neat.
What is the weirdest place or weirdest venue that you've done?
The DMZ in North South Korea.
The DMZ?
Yeah, well, 10 miles from it.
Okay.
That's one. Number one. The other one was Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Wow.
Yeah, for the oil company.
Right.
And that was quite something. That was like something out of Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh.
So at that point, I was working with a partner. This was way back. This was like in the 80s.
Right.
The oil company, the Aramco, Arabian American Oil Company, hired people to be entertainers for their oil workers. And it was really surreal. It was like going to another country and going to a military base where that particular square mile is a U.S. sovereign territory enclave.
Right.
And it was like that, you know, that movie, The Truman Show?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, where it's basically this fake town.
Right.
And you go in, and it's like a fake town from the 60s.
Only it's real.
Only it's real.
Right.
You go in, and there's, you know, like laid out like suburbia from the 60s.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they had, you know, a movie theater, a dining hall, you know, nicely manicured lawns. And these were all these oil workers from, you know, Texas and Oklahoma. And, you know, here. Yeah. They were all from here, you know, the oil patch. Yeah. And the other people that worked for the company were the Saudis, who were the sort of admin people from that. And then the people from, you know, the workers. Right. You know, people from, you know, Kuwait and, you know, Indonesia and stuff. And those are the guys that actually did the work. Right. Here, you know, we have a lot of Latinos that do a lot of physical labor. Right. There, you know, they get people from Kuwait.
Or any other country.
Any other country that's not
Saudi Arabia, right? India, Pakistan, whatever.
India, Pakistan, you know, all over. So it was quite something. And in the enclave, you know, when we're doing the show, so there's like the oil workers, you know, yeah, I'm from Texas. I got my Ole cap, and you know, I'm from Texas. Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm following. You know, I'm watching you, but I'm gonna go back and, you know, watch the game on TV. So there's that. But then there's all the Saudi Arabian guys, and they're like, you know, in the white sort of robe things with the hats, you know, with the rope around it to hold the hat on. The women are all in black. Right. All in black with black, you know, veils.
And they're covered, right? They're veiled, right?
Yeah, not veils like you see in like a movie. Oh,
no.
They're like totally covered. Right. Totally covered in black. And, you know, it was surreal. Yeah. It was quite something. And we had like a whole list of things we could not
do, right?
Could and could not do. We couldn't wear short sleeves.
Okay.
Could not wear short sleeves. Could not wear shorts.
Right.
We, you know, no swearing, obviously. Right. No alcohol or drug jokes. And entertainment is illegal in Saudi Arabia. So we were.
Wait a minute. So how are you doing this?
we were consultants.
Oh, welcome. This consultant has some strange garb on, but that's okay. Yeah.
It was very, very, very surreal. So yeah, that was probably the weirdest, and that the tours for the military bases in Korea, you know, and you know, I mean, you know, it's now half a century later. Yes, it's still a hot zone.
It's still the DMZ, right?
It's still
technically at war.
Yeah, still the DMZ. You know, so and you know, because I'm like 50 now. Back, you know, it was 15 years ago. I was in my 30s, but still, the people on the line seemed really young. Right. Really young.
Well, you know, you want them that way, right? Because you don't want them to think too much.
Yeah.
Just take orders.
Yeah. Yeah. But they have an amazing responsibility.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that was quite something. And driving around in South Korea, where you're like maybe 100 miles from the border, right? All the roads are booby trapped.
Oh dear!
Every few miles,
right? So
basically, they're prepared to repel a land invasion. So all of the freeway overpasses have dynamite in them. So if if there's an invasion, they blow all the bridges. there are these things that look like freeway overpasses with no freeway. So you have a road, along here. There's a thing that looks like a freeway overpass that's not actually built. It's just like a structure over the road, and basically it's built to blow up and fall down on the road to block the road, so people can't go along the road. It was quite something.
Oh,
yeah, so that was the spooky. I've been to all over the Caribbean with the cruise ships, Jamaica, Barbados, and all over Saudi Arabia, Japan. I was tall in Japan.
Did you like that?
I was tall. I swear to God, I was working there at an amusement park by Nagasaki, which is called Holland Village.
Okay.
And one of the original trading partners that Japan had was with the Dutch. And they had like trading towns with the Dutch. So there's a lot of Dutch influence.
Right.
And this particular one, they had this amusement park built to look like a little Dutch village. But everybody in Japan is shorter, so the doorways were, instead of 7 feet tall like they were here, they were 6 feet tall.
Right.
So, and people were shorter. So a couple of times we went to shopping malls, and I actually could look over the top of all of the people in the shopping mall. It's like a sea of
That's
people.
a weird feeling, isn't it?
People going out, like, very weird. And all the other performers from Europe. We had a couple of jugglers from Amsterdam, who were like over 6 feet tall, and they were always continually banging their head on the doorways. It was like, kind of wacky. They call us those wacky gaijins.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So what would you tell people that want to get into the business? Any words of wisdom, things to watch out for, things you would, like I said, you just tell them, do this, don't do this?
Jay Leno had probably the best advice, which was do every single show you can possibly do, because you'll learn something. That's number one. And I've been reading this book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. Okay. And the premise of the book is the people that get really, really good at stuff, it's because they did it for 10,000 hours. Right. So the Beatles, one of the reasons the Beatles got really, really good was they got this job in Germany where they played at this nightclub like 4 or 5 hours a night for for like a couple of years. And so just how tight you get doing that. And the people that are, you say, for instance, here in Texas, you guys, if you look at, where do good football players come from, probably here in Texas, because people love football. So you got you got kids in grammar school that are learning how to play football, and you got football teams in in junior high and college, and junior high school and college, and then by the time they're graduating college, they've done football for 10 years. Right. Whereas somebody in someplace that's not so intense about football, sort of like in the middle of college, I'm pretty beefy. I think I'm going to I'll go out for the football team, and there's a 9-year-old kid in Plano, Texas, who is better than you'll ever be in your life. Because he's been doing it since since he was 6. So basically, do every show you can, and just go for it. I mean, a lot of it is just putting yourself out there and doing it. Right. Especially with the comedy stuff, because I do the juggling and the magic and the escapee and tightrope walking and all that jazz. But so there's the physical skill of the actual stunts that I'm doing. Right. But one of the tricky things is the actual presentation skill, and that you practice actually on stage in front of an audience. Right. So you have to get on stage in front of an audience to practice it. And with the comedy, it's a very much an interactive dialogue between yourself and the basically like a play. The way I describe it to people is when you watch a play, you have actors that are interacting back and forth between each other on stage, and they're not interacting with you, the audience, that much. Right. with a comedian, there's two actors on stage. There's the actor, and then there's the audience. The audience actually is another character, and you speak back and forth with the audience. With certain you do a little monologue, but you'll if you go to a comedy club, you'll quite often see the performer interacting with the audience, where they directly ask somebody in the audience, what do you think of blah blah blah, or where did you grow up, what do you do for a living, and that interaction will lead into a story that they want to tell, and it's very much interactive, and it's really interesting because it's both very powerful and it's very vulnerable.
Yes,
where the power is when you do something that's truly the people that I love to watch are the people that are really good at interacting with the audience, and they also have their sort of planned out material. And the people that are breathtakingly good, you can't tell.
If it's prepared or not. Yeah.
You can't tell when they're riffing with that guy in the front row, where the riffing with the guy in the front row finishes, and the story about working at an auto parts plant in Michigan starts. You can't tell.
That's amazing.
And it's breathtaking to see people do that.
You can learn in other venues, but I think there's no substitute for being on the stage. There's no question about that. But suppose someone really just doesn't have the ability. I mean, there's some ways you can compensate for that. But
well, here's the thing. I think anybody can get competent. And workmanlike. But then there are the people that are gifted. They go farther and faster. But so much of this is maybe I'm being cynical, but I think a lot of it is it's a learned skill. And now certainly there are people that through an innate gifted ability, they learn the skill faster. But I think a lot of it is a learned skill. You go, oh, blah, 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 so-and-so. Oh, he's just naturally funny. It's because he's been doing, comedy club.
He's been practicing.
And the people that do comedy clubs, a lot of times they practice in different situations. You'll have 1 week in a club. We, myself and Andy, we just did a club in San Antonio, Laugh Out Loud, San Antonio. And that's one of the best clubs in the country. It's like 400 seats.
Wow!
It's like playing in a like a comedy concert. You do a laugh, you do a joke, and then it's like like that. That's right. You do a laugh, and you like check your watch to let it finish. So there's that, and playing in theater venues like this is everything's all set up for you here. So it's like people have paid a lot of money, so. They know they're going to be a good show. It's in a theater. They know they're supposed to pay attention. They know they're supposed to behave. All the chairs are facing towards the stage.
Right. Yeah.
All the chairs are facing towards the stage. So a show in here, everything's going for you. So it's easy to look brilliant here. Now, the hardcore road comics, they can be brilliant in a loud, noisy bar with the football game on.
Wow.
It's not easy. You have to be really harsh and really demanding of people's attention. And then you see somebody that's good at jumping back and forth between those two venues. It's not like they're gifted. It's just that they've had practice and like, okay, I've got my jokes for what do I do? What's the little quip I do after people at the other end of the bar cheer because somebody hit the end zone in the football game. Okay, blah blah blah. And then they can do if they're fast enough with those reactions in a situation like this when we're in a theater. If a sandbag falls down, and the building catches on fire, they'll have something funny.
They're covered, Yeah,
they're covered. It's not because they're naturally funny. It's just sort of like, okay, write some jokes about the building catching on fire and remember them. But some people are fast enough that they just go, oh, obviously this is what you should say because that's funny. What's funny? So,
what haven't you done that you'd like to do going forward professionally?
Professionally, what have I not done? Well, there's stuff I'd like to do more. I've done a series of one-man shows in San Francisco in small theaters, and I'd like to continue with that.
Okay.
That's really, really fun. And I really enjoy doing theaters like this one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is I don't know if you can tell from looking at me in the lobby, but this is a very nice theater. Right over there. Past that door.
Oh no, there's very few places that are this old. I mean,
very nice.
America's a relatively young country, but 76-year-old theater. It's got a lot of history. A lot of people have been on that stage.
Yeah.
Big names and small, small names too. But we all love the place.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. So, and like I say, like a theater like this is 500 seats, good sight lines. Mm-hmm. You walk on stage here, and there people in the audience. It's easy.
Yeah.
Because like all, this is kind of hippy dippy California. Ooh, hug a tree. The feng shui, all of the stars are aligned. The feng shui is right. All our chakras are in alignment. Right. There's all these things going for you to make it easy to do a really nice show in a situation like this, and in a theater. Compared to comedy clubs, are really nice because you can say anything.
Right.
You can go anywhere, say anything, go nuts, swear up, down, sideways, get really weird with your imagery, and people will, if they're drunk enough, they'll go with you. But in a theater, you obviously can't do this with the fact that we're doing a magic variety juggling show. You get a family audience.
Absolutely.
You can't go nuts with that. But in a theater, because it's a theater, you can do something and then use silence. Mm-hmm. For something. In a theater, you can use silence for. So let me give you a little example. There's a friend of mine named Michael Davis, who is a really wonderful stand-up comedian / juggler. Okay. And he really hit it big by getting on The Tonight Show a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And he did a bunch of shows for, like the presidential inauguration dinners. Mm-hmm. And the way I describe him is he's a Zen master of comedy.
Zen master of comedy.
Yeah, well, like if you watch what I do, I'm running around, all sweaty and yelling and trying to be Mr. Goofy guy. No, energy. He's calm, slow.
And that's not a problem.
And he does not waste an ounce of energy. An example of one of his things is he does. You've seen the juggling trick where you have ping pong balls and you spit them up in the air and stuff. He very, very calmly pulls out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to do this, and he takes a ping pong ball, and let's see. And what he does is he sucks it into his mouth. Right. Spits it out. This is unusual. It's very dangerous. Pa. If I were to swallow this ball, pa, it would hurt. Twice.
Twice?
Think about it. So and he just does this series of jokes with this almost hypnotic, if I were to, this is very dangerous. Pa, if I were to swallow this ball, pa, it would hurt. Pa, twice. And he gets this slow, rhythmic, hypnotic thing going, and it just destroys the audience. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful. Go on YouTube, Michael Davis, Tonight Show, Stand-Up Comedy Festival, San Francisco. Right. Knock yourself out. It's just and just watching that in a theater. Right. It was like each one of those pauses. He could make it 20 minutes if he wanted to. Right. And people would just bust up laughing. He doesn't make it 20 minutes. He makes it like a couple of seconds, but it's just like, wow. just seeing that.
Well, that's interesting because especially in this fast stage where everything seems to be edited fast. If you can't hold your attention for a few seconds, we're out of there. I think, is it 2 seconds? Yeah, if your web page doesn't load in 2 seconds, you're out of there.
Yeah.
How does he draw in people and get them captivated like that? He's control of his audience. He's got control of his audience.
It's like this crazy Jedi mind control thing.
He must.
It's like, these are not the droids we're looking for.
These are not the droids.
You will laugh. Oh, it's really funny. And it's also different culturally.
Yes.
The United States, we're kind of a verbal culture, and we get bored if people aren't talking really fast all the time.
Right.
And if you go to other countries, it's not necessarily the case. One time, on this trip going to Saudi Arabia, my partner and I, we were doing a juggling duo at the time. We actually arranged our flight tickets so that we could go to Europe on the way out and on the way back. And we went to Switzerland, to Zurich, Switzerland. They had like a street performing area in Zurich, Switzerland. And we were like hanging out on the street. It's like November. It's kind of drizzling cold. And somebody said, yeah, I saw this guy with a unicycle walking up the street. And it turned out to be a friend of ours named Bill Galvin, who lived in San Francisco and had moved to Europe to do theaters like the Crighton.
Wow.
And we said, oh my God, where have you been? And he was picking up his car, which was being fixed in Zurich. And it's drizzling, and while we're talking, people are like coming up to him, and all like very, very, very respectful. Excuse, please, are you the artist? Yeah, I'm the juggler. Yeah. I said, when will you make the show? And it's I'm catching up with my friends. It'll be a few minutes. Oh, no. We'll wait. And over the course of about 20 minutes, we get this like ring of people, all expectantly waiting. You're like almost like this,
right?
And he starts the show, and it's wonderful. And he did like a sort of a clown, not much talking. Sort of, he had like a whistle and did a lot of gesturing and sort of mime, juggling, clowny stuff. Very good. And halfway through the show, you hear this like commotion. You hear this commotion coming up the street. And it gets close enough, and it turns out to be like a couple of, like a group of drunk people. And this girl, like, hey, is this the fire eater? No, he's just a juggler. Let's go. And he's like doing this beautiful mime, and he breaks character, and he goes, that's why I left America. And then back into the show.
Wow. No, you're right. It is very different.
It's amazing.
I was just like, you talk silence. I understand in Japan, you can be in a meeting, and there'll be these long periods of silence, which we can't tolerate. I mean, if we have 5 seconds of silence, like, I gotta say something.
Yeah.
But there, it's almost a negotiating tactic.
Oh yeah.
We just sit quietly. Nothing,
You wait till
there's something
breaks.
going on, but
wait till somebody breaks. Well, it's the same thing. The same. I mean, if you do that like when you're trying to buy a car,
right?
And you say, well, this is how much I'm willing to pay. And and eventually, they'll like, okay, I'll go talk to my manager. But it's quite something. I mean, I know people that, they'll, like when they're talking over like a price for like a corporate show or something, they'll be going back and forth. They'll throw a price down, and they'll put the phone on speaker and walk away, so that to keep them from saying anything. Oh no, we couldn't do it for for that with that complexity. We're going to need the X amount of money. Because usually what we do is we get all neurotic. It's like, we'll do it for that X amount of money. But if that's too much, that's okay. I can take the bus. I don't have to drive there. It's like, because we get all neurotic. Most artists are very neurotic.
You meet all kinds in this business.
Yeah. In fact, all artists are very neurotic.
All?
Yeah.
Okay. If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
You're funny.
I like you. Yeah, come on in. Yeah. Oh, you got the gong. Oh, no. It's the gong show. That was
Was that? Did we run out of something, or
no?
Did we run afoul?
Fred, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Ow! We try it again. You can do it.
Oh!
Ooh!
Oh, God, wait. Hold on.
Ah! Oh, no! Yeah. Quick, get a doctor.
Ah! Too hard. Okay, stop me. Just